Hello, and thank you for joining us for Expo 2020 Dubai, Pre-Expo Virtual Space Week. My name is John Rakolta Jr., and I'm the Commissioner General of the United States Pavilion and the United States Ambassador to the UAE. The United States is thrilled to be part of the Pre-Expo virtual program, providing us with an opportunity to preview our pavilion's exhibition, Themes of Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of the Future. We are planning a spectacular exhibition to capture the fascination of Expo visitors. And what could be more captivating than space exploration? As part of our exhibit, the United States will highlight recent achievements in space as well as partnerships between the public and private sectors to demonstrate our cooperation in space exploration. Today we have American officials from NASA speaking about the cooperation essential for returning Americans to the moon and exploring manned missions to Mars. We'll hear from NASA experts who conduct experiments on soil samples from the moon and who chart the history of NASA, capturing and preserving that history for future generations. And imagining space, we can consider commercial space travel to be something that will become a common reality in our lifetimes, something that must be done safely and securely to ensure the health of scientists and travelers. We have an exciting program for you, connecting minds, creating the future through space exploration and cooperation. Now, let's hear from the experts.
Hi, I'm Jim Green, NASA's Chief Scientist, and I'm here to talk about our plans for human exploration beyond low Earth orbit. These plans involve going to the moon to learn to live and work on a planetary surface, then on to Mars, starting in the 2030s. Let me first talk in more detail about our lunar program called Artemis. In the 2020s, the Artemis program will be divided up into two phases. Artemis Phase 1 includes all our robotic and human activities on and around the moon, anchored around 3 Artemis missions. Let me talk in particular about these missions. Each Artemis mission will use the Space Launch System and the Orion capsule. The first mission, known as Artemis 1, will be launched in November 2021 without astronauts, but it will rendezvous with the moon and then return, allowing all our major systems to be tested. From that experience, we then will launch the Artemis 2 in 2023. That will be crewed. It will circle the moon and return, enabling us to be ready for the spectacular Artemis 3 mission. Now, Artemis 3 will be launched by 2024, allowing us to land the first woman and the next man on the south pole of the moon. Now, we expect this crew to be on the surface more than a week. The Apollos each spent less than 3 days on the moon. Another important element of the Artemis program is that we have all the key hardware contracts in place. And this will ensure that we can return to the moon within these next 4 years and establish a sustainable exploration by the end of the decade. For example, the commercial human landing system is under contract to 3 groups: Blue Origin, Dynetics, and SpaceX. These teams are developing the capability that will take astronauts to and from the surface of the moon. We will down select to 1 in the future. Gateway is a major commercial and international partner system that is part of the backbone of our long-term exploration plans. In fact, the Canadian Space Agency is very interested in the external robotic activity on Gateway. The Japanese want to be involved in the habitation components and the logistical resupply. ESA, in addition to the habitation, also the refueling. And the Russian Space Agency has also expressed interest in elements yet to be defined. NASA is on track to launch the integrated power and propulsion elements, and the habitation and logistics outpost, making up the gateway in 2023. In fact, we'll have science instruments on the gateway. Now, all our international partners are talking with us with the Artemis Accords in mind. These lay out basic principles consistent with the Outer Space Treaty that was developed in 1967. Peaceful uses of space, transparency, interoperability, and many other elements are the key to the Artemis Accords. From a scientific experiment basis, NASA will deliver dozens of scientific payloads and technology demonstration instruments to the lunar surface. And we'll do that through the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative, or CLPS. We have already begun this activity with 2 flights that we expect to occur in 2021. Our experiments on the moon will reach a vast set of concepts in terms of understanding volatile cycles, interpreting the impact history of the Earth-Moon system, revealing the record of the ancient sun, observing the universe from a unique location, investigating and mitigating exploration risks to humans. One of the key objectives in going to the South Pole is to get into the permanently shadowed craters. These craters, we believe, contain an enormous amount of water and other volatiles, perhaps as much as several 100 million tons of water exist in the permanently shadowed regions. Now, the in situ research, utilization, and other technologies will be proven on the surface of the moon. These involve surface power, dust mitigation, equipment mobility, and how to operate in such extreme temperatures. All are being planned. Well, that is about all the time I have to give you this brief overview. And we look forward to discussing more about this exciting program. And I hope you will join us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Odom, the acting NASA Chief Historian. My job at NASA involves capturing and preserving the history of all the critical work the agency accomplishes in its missions of human exploration and scientific discovery. Now, these missions go all the way back to the very beginning in terms of the Apollo program, landing human beings on the moon for the first time, current programs like the International Space Station, or ISS, and the Artemis program that will take human beings back to the moon and eventually on to Mars. Obviously, NASA plays a vital role in the space sector. It has for generations now. Since its creation in 1958, NASA has been involved in programs of human spaceflight, great accomplishments, learning great science, programs like the Hubble Space Telescope, the Chandra X-ray Observatory, programs that have just really incredibly expanded our knowledge of both our own planet, the universe, and the universe in our solar system around us. These current programs, we try to stay very involved in those programs to really capture that history and preserve it, and then also communicate it to the public. And I think that's what's so important about the work that I do in the history office there. When we think about the Apollo program in particular, though, one of the things that continually comes to mind are these space rocks, these moon rocks that were brought back. About 842 pounds of those that were returned. Now, these things tell us about great science. They tell us about what exactly the composition of the moon was, what its history has been over time, and how it compares to our own experience here on Earth. But those rocks also serve another very vital, important function. They communicate and they make tangible this experience of human exploration. This experience of learning about the solar system around us. These rocks have had a life of their own as they travel throughout the country and the world in exhibits where folks can come up and really lay hands on something that just 100 years ago, even less than that, would have just been unimaginable. But it really brings a reality to this program, and I think ultimately that's what those rocks, the effect that they have. I'm excited, and I know a lot of people at NASA are, about the Expo 2020 and NASA's participation there in Dubai. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about our past. It's a great opportunity to talk about where we are in space flight today, the growth of the commercial sector, the growth of international partners. And that's what it's going to take. And it's going to take, as we go back to the moon with the Artemis program, to land the first woman and the next man on that surface, and then go on to Mars. Artemis is going to take a huge partnership. It's going to take a collective. When the astronauts from Apollo 11 returned from their mission in 1969, one of the things they did was they traveled the world in a great exposition in itself. And the thing that struck them the most was, as they traveled the world, was people came up to them and said, "We did it. Not America did it. Not America beat the Soviet Union, but that we did it." And I think that's what opportunities like this expo do for us. It allows us to think about collectively what we can accomplish as a species, and what might be ahead of us in exploration. As we go to Mars, think about the Perseverance rover that's gonna hopefully land on Mars in February of next year, and the great science that will be returned as part of that mission. Also, there's an international urgency to do that, to learn about that planet, and we hope that will be the case, and we look forward to hearing more about that. I know as a historian, it's an interesting job when you work at an agency where you can see these historical firsts continually being made as we move out beyond Earth and move out into the solar system. I know I look forward again, as many other people, to seeing what goes on in Dubai, and unfortunately we're met with a crisis with COVID-19, and it has limited our ability to participate as we would. But I think it's a perfect opportunity to think, to regroup, to think about the past, but then really express our desire to move forward into the future. And that's what I hope as the historian who will, and the people who will pass this history off to into the future. So thanks again for this opportunity, and I'll look forward to seeing more from Dubai. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Ryan Zeigler, and I am the Apollo Sample Curator here at NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. From 1969 to 1972, 6 Apollo missions landed on the moon, and the astronauts collected 382 kilograms of rock and soil, which we take care of here in the Curation Office at Johnson Space Center. Now, our job in the Curation Office is to maximize the scientific return from the Apollo samples now, while at the same time protecting the samples from contamination so that future generations of scientists will still be able to continue to study the samples. In order to protect the samples, the entire collection lives inside laboratories and vaults that are clean rooms. And within these clean rooms, the samples are stored and worked on only inside stainless steel glove boxes that are filled with ultra-pure dry nitrogen. We also only use tools made out of certain types of stainless steel, aluminum, and Teflon. All of this together keeps the samples as clean as possible and reduces any type of contamination that might interfere with the current or future scientific studies to a minimum. Now, over the past 50 years, scientists have performed over 3,000 different studies using the Apollo samples to make significant discoveries in fields as disparate as geology, biology, chemistry, engineering, astronomy, medicine, material science, and many others. There have literally been too many amazing discoveries to mention them all, but some of the most important things that the Apollo samples have taught us are things like that the moon formed through a giant impact into the Earth very early in the solar system's history. The Apollo samples have also helped us determine the ages of the surfaces of other planets in our solar system, like Mercury and Mars. Apollo samples have also helped determine that Jupiter and the other gas giant planets likely did not form where they currently are found in our solar system. And finally, the Apollo samples have even helped scientists search for life on exoplanets orbiting distant stars. Now, it's important to understand that the Apollo samples are still being actively studied, and they are still teaching us new things about the solar system. There are currently over 10,000 subsamples of the moon on loan to 145 different investigators in 16 different countries. Now, just last year, as part of the innovative Apollo Next Generation Sample Analysis Program, we opened one of the 6 remaining unstudied Apollo samples, and 9 teams of scientists, over 60 people from around the world, are currently studying that sample to learn more about the moon and also to get ready for the upcoming Artemis missions. Now, when the Artemis missions land the first woman and the next man on the moon in 2024, the samples they are going to bring back from the moon are likely going to revolutionize our understanding of the moon and the entire solar system. Now, you'll be seeing a basalt collected during the last Apollo mission, Apollo 17. During this mission, astronauts Gene Cernan, Jack Schmitt, and Ron Evans landed in the Taurus-Latro Valley at the edge of the Sea of Serenity. This valley is even deeper than the Grand Canyon, and the basalts they collected are over 3.8 billion years old, older than every rock at the surface of the Earth except for like 2 places. Now, we are exceptionally excited to be able to take part in the USA Pavilion here at Expo 2020, and we really hope that you enjoy the Apollo sample and all the other NASA exhibits as well. Thanks so much.
I'm Wayne Monteith, the FAA's Associate Administrator for Commercial Space Transportation. My job is essentially to regulate the safety of the U.S. commercial rocket business, or more formally, ensure the protection of the public, property, and national security and foreign policy interests of the United States during commercial launch and re-entry activities. Additionally, it's also part of my job to encourage, facilitate, and promote U.S. commercial space transportation. My office was established in 1984, and since that time, we've licensed over 400 commercial space activities. And even though we've seen some pretty spectacular launch anomalies, we have a perfect safety record protecting the public. We also have a perfect record of ensuring these commercial launches and their payloads can safely avoid other objects in space during launch and re-entry using our collision avoidance processes. What an exciting time to be in this industry. We are seeing unprecedented increases in both complexity and cadence. And just one example, in 2010 and 2011, the FAA licensed a total of 5 commercial launches. In August of this year, we supported 5 commercially licensed launches in just a single month. We now have commercial companies flying rocket stages back and successfully landing them on land and sea as well. We have companies building rockets and engines using additive manufacturing. And most exciting of all is we now have commercial companies flying humans to space, both government astronauts and commercial spaceflight participants. Currently, they go for science, but very soon it will also be simply for the experience. And in the future, maybe even for point-to-point transportation. Wow, times are indeed changing. And speaking of using space for potential point-to-point travel, my office is also responsible for licensing spaceports in the United States. We currently have 12 licensed spaceports for vertical and horizontal launch and reentry activities. And like launch and reentry activities, this is also an area that we are actively working with our international partners, so we can have a common understanding of what it takes to have a safe operation with a minimum regulatory burden. Focusing for a moment on commercial human spaceflight activities, we are seeing an incredible change in how we get to space. NASA just completed certifying their first crewed mission on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket using a Dragon capsule. And as we all know, the mission was an incredible success. And going forward, these orbital missions will also be FAA licensed. We are also seeing companies like Virgin Galactic on the verge of enabling ordinary people like you and me the opportunity to go to space and potentially conducting hundreds of flights a year. Our job at the FAA is to keep these efforts safe. So where do we go from here? Any day now, our office will publish a completely new regulation for our industry. It combines and streamlines our 4 current launch and reentry regulations. It moves from a prescriptive to a performance-based approach to unleash innovation. And it allows for a single license to cover multiple launches from potentially multiple locations. This allows us to go from supporting dozens of launches a year to supporting hundreds of launches a year and reentries. And this will be the foundation for commercial companies to start pushing beyond Earth's orbit and going to the moon and beyond. Regulating safety only to the extent necessary will enable this industry to accomplish even more than we can currently imagine. And that is the FAA's commitment to this critical transportation sector. Wrapping up, it's hard to express how excited we are at the FAA to be a part of the USA Pavilion at Expo 2020 and to be able to represent space and specifically space transportation. Because let's face it, before you can do anything in space, you have to be able to get there safely. Thanks so much. And I hope you're as excited as I am about Expo 2020.
Hello, my name is Kevin O'Connell, and I'm the Director of the Office of Space Commerce at the U.S. Department of Commerce. The Office of Space Commerce has been in existence for over 30 years to advocate on behalf of the U.S. commercial space industry, as well as advocate for the growth of space commerce. The Department of Commerce is involved in space issues in so many different ways: advocacy, intellectual property protection, standards, spectrum, and of course, a wide range of issues that relate to how we will achieve the goal of the $1 trillion space economy. We know that there are a handful of issues that are critical to achieving that goal. First, continuing entrepreneurship, which is so strong in the space arena. Second, the role of private finance and insurance. Third, regulatory reform. Fourth, talent. Let me spend a minute on this. While we're going to need as much technical talent as we can possibly get our hands on, we also know we're going to need a very wide range of talent from all disciplines to achieve that $1 trillion space economy. So that's very important to focus on. Another area that the department is increasingly involved is the issue of space safety and sustainability. Space Policy Directive 3 gave Commerce responsibility for transitioning conjunction notifications to private sector and international partners over the next few years. And we're very excited about that mission because we want to work with our private sector and international partners in order to accomplish that. And it is a key element of the growth of space commerce, keeping space safe and sustainable. Let me conclude by saying that we're very excited how much space will be a part of the USA Pavilion at Expo 2020, and we hope to see you there. Thanks very much.
We hope you've enjoyed this Pre-Expo Space Week program, giving you a preview of one aspect of the US Pavilion. 50 years ago, at the World's Fair in Osaka, Japan, the United States Pavilion stole the show with its strong space focus, a star attraction being a 3.2 billion-year-old basaltic moon rock. We intend to build on our unique space and World's Fair's legacy at Expo 2020 Dubai, which will have its own must-see and must-touch elements. Our focus on space exploration to the moon and Mars and beyond will emphasize the cooperation among partners needed to continue this international endeavor. As we heard from the chief scientist of NASA, we will get there together. We look forward to continuing to work with all of you to deliver a successful Expo 2020 Pavilion. And we look forward to the opening celebration in 1 year's time. Thank you for joining us today.